Good morning, guys. I am going to be talking about species distribution today, and I want you to have a little patience because it may be a little bit wonky. The program that I've been using to do our notes has not been installed on my new laptop yet, so I'm trying to try some different things out. So I decided to go ahead and just project my notebook so that you could copy down my handwritten notes. So they're already written out for you, so you'll just need to copy down basically what I have written. Okay, but I do want to go through it and explain the concepts for you. So this first graph right here is showing us species distribution. So this is referring to what we call ecological tolerance. So it's a range of conditions in which animals or plants or any other organism is going to have the greatest survival rate. All right. So this image right here is showing us fish. Fish are easy to study. So if you look right here, this is what we consider to be the optimal range. We have a majority of our organisms surviving in this range right here. Now, there are always organisms that can survive outside of those ideal conditions. There's a few of them. So, on either side, we have what's called the zone of stress. And so this one we're looking at temperature specifically. So, these fish can live in a little bit colder environments, and these fish can live in a little bit warmer environments. Like I said, there are just a few of them. Now, when you get to the very end, right here is the zone of intolerance. These conditions are way too extreme for any of our organisms to be able to survive in those conditions. So this could be temperature, it could be salinity levels, sunlight, the flow rate of water, lots of examples. Okay, so let's look down here, and I forgot I can't scroll because this is my actual handwritten copy. Okay, so let's look at the images down here at the bottom. So we are looking at what we call, sorry y'all, this is a little bit awkward, I just don't have a lot of space on my desk. I gotta shift stuff around. Okay, so this is what we call niches. Okay, now with niches, a niche is basically what we refer to as basically the organism's role that it plays in the environment. It's the conditions where it functions best. Okay, so when we look at niches, we can theorize, this organism could possibly live here, or we are going to look at the actual reality of the situation and, okay, this is where they're actually going to live. So one of the examples that is used right here, and this is such a super interesting example, are barnacles. Okay, so barnacles are those little crusty looking animals that live on whales and build up on the side of boats and stuff. So the brown and the blue, because I'm not going to try to pronounce their names, if you look right here, this brown species, okay, we're going to look at what is called the fundamental niche. Okay, so the fundamental niche, this is a definition, is a theoretical set of conditions. So this is where we think that this barnacle could live, because we know about its genetics, we know about the climate it likes, we know what kind of food it eats. So we could theorize, we think it's going to survive here. In reality, it doesn't. So when you put it with another species of barnacle, so this blue species right here, you can see that the range of where it survives is drastically smaller. It's having to compete with these organisms, and this is in that intertidal zone we talked about. That's a really difficult environment to live in anyway. So the realized niche, okay, is the actual conditions that the organism lives in. So real life conditions where it actually lives. Okay, so let's flip the page and we're going to look over here at this graph right here. Okay, now this is showing us the fundamental versus the realized niche in a graph. Let me erase this. Okay. So if you look right here, we have the niche. Okay, so this is the niche of the raccoon. This is the niche of the panda. Both mammals, but they live in different environments and they're going to have different food sources and competition and predators. So this is a much narrower niche. So a panda has a very specific set of conditions to survive in. It's much more narrow, and so we call it a specialist, because if you take it outside of that environment, it most likely will not survive. Now the raccoon, aka the trash panda, has a much wider niche. It's a generalist species. They can pretty much live anywhere you put them. They'll find whatever they can to eat and they'll be okay. So when we look at these niches right here, okay, we go back to that R versus K specialist. So let me change it to my pen. Okay, so the panda is most likely going to be a K specialist because it has a much narrower niche. Okay, this one is going to most likely be an R because it's a generalist and it can pretty much live anywhere. All right, so let's move on to look at endangered animals. So I'm going to go down here, and this is going to give us our first kind of introduction into the way that we look at endangered species. Okay. Hopefully you guys can read my handwritings right here. So I'm going to go ahead and erase these two. Okay. So when we look at endangered species, we're typically going to be relating it to human impacts. These human impacts are going to be classified into what we call HIPCO. So you can see the what the letters stand for, HIPCO. Okay, so we look at habitat destruction. So we're looking at when pieces of land get fragmented because we build roads or pipelines. Invasive species, so species that are not normally supposed to be there, they do cause a huge impact on the native species. P is for population growth. Now this is human population growth, and we know that with the exponential growth that we're seeing in humans, it's causing increased deforestation, habitat encroachment. It also is going to lead to pollution. More people, more pollution. This includes pesticides, fertilizers, and oil spills. Climate change. So with our increased carbon dioxide levels, it's causing an increase in temperature. Over harvesting and over hunting. It does apply to a lot of animals. We typically are seeing this with fish, with overfishing, but the over hunting that is talking about poaching, which is the illegal type of hunting of endangered animals. Okay, now we are seeing higher than normal impacts because more people on the planet, so there's going to be more human interaction. Now, the way that we monitor and track endangered species, and how does an animal even become classified as an endangered species? We look at the red list. So the red list is created by the IUCN. The IUCN is the International Union of Conservation of Nature. Okay? They're the ones that publish this red list. So in order for an organism to be classified as endangered on the red list, it has to meet these requirements right here. Okay? It doesn't have to meet all of them, but the more of these conditions that are met, the greater chance it will be put on the list. So we look at the population size, how many are left, the degree of specialization. Okay, the degree of specialization. So is it like a panda where it has to have a very specific set of conditions, or is it more like a raccoon where it doesn't? The reproductive potential. How many offspring can it have? How often does it reproduce? The geographic range. Where does it live? Has that area been reduced in size? The degree of fragmentation. So if an area has been fragmented, how much has it been split into smaller pieces? And the trophic level. Where does it fit in the food chain? Okay. Now, this is great. This is what the world basically pays attention to. Is it a perfect system? Do we have animals and plants fall through the cracks? Yes, obviously we do. Because money. It's all about finance. So if we don't have enough money to have the research into this, then some of these animals can be what we call underscored. Okay? So let's look at some examples. I'm going to look on the next page. Okay. We know that the current extinction rates are 100 to 1,000 or to 10,000 times higher than normal background rates. So we know that animals and plants do go extinct because of biology, because of nature. Okay? But right now, because of human involvement, they are 100 to 10,000 times higher than what they should be. We do see the highest rates in the tropics because it's warm, it is very diverse there, and it's also where you have the majority of the lower economically developed countries. Okay? All right, now, when we look at how do we engage in conservation, how do we protect these organisms, and I'm going to use elephants as an example. We have in situ conservation. So this is keeping and y'all make sure you write this down because I didn't write it down here. This is keeping the organism in its natural habitat. So you're talking about a preserve, some type of protected area of land where we're able to keep the elephant where it's supposed to live. It's better for the organism. If that's not possible, we have ex situ conservation, which is placing an animal in a zoo-like environment. Most zoos are beneficial and they have great intentions. Okay, so that's ex situ, out of its normal environment. All right. So when we look at the different classifications, all right, we have endangered, which we know that it is close to becoming extinct. So make sure you write that down. Critically endangered, it's almost extinct. Threatened means that it is dwindling in numbers, so it is close to becoming endangered. All right. Now, we also have what we call local extinction. It is gone from a particular area. For example, the red wolf is locally extinct in Texas, where it should be, but you can still find it in other states like Arizona and New Mexico.